Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Indie Pride from Milk and Cookies Total War. Welcome back, and the King and the Warlord DLC is about to launch for Total War Warhammer. So I felt like a great way to celebrate its release would be to go into a multiplayer battle with Oakley High Def, do an all-Gobbo army, show off a bunch of the new units against Clan Angrund, and here in the shadow of the City of Pillars, Cataract 8 Peaks, we have Belegar Ironhammer facing off against the Night Goblin Warlord Skarsnik of the Crooked Moon tribe. So let's go over army compositions first, go over some of the units, some of the new ones that were introduced in this DLC, and then we can get into the battle. And it is an absolutely insane battle, one of the craziest finishes to a Total War game that I've ever played or seen. I'm not exaggerating that. It was seriously hype, so definitely you should stick around to the end because it gets really crazy. So let's go over the army compositions and the changes in this DLC. Probably going to do that for 5 or 7 minutes, something like that. Just cover a lot of the new units, and then we'll get into the replay. So up front, I have a front line of Night Goblin Fanatics. The Fanatics have been reworked in this DLC with a patch so that they're a vortex spell, basically. You can get into melee combat and then direct and activate the Fanatics when you want them to be released, and then you kind of use them like a wind blast spell or a breath spell, and it will go in the direction you release them. They're not particularly accurate, they don't do a massive amount of damage, but they have been reworked. They are certainly better than they were before. Right behind them, I have the Nasty Skulkers. This is a new unit that has some interesting mechanics that were introduced. So the Opportunistic Murderer is a new ability for them. It is a passive that activates when they're in melee combat and winning. They'll get plus 36 armor piercing damage, plus 16 melee attack, and they'll get poison. As soon as they start losing combat, then it will go on cooldown and the poison won't refresh. So after that first poison activation, then it won't activate again. At least that's how I understand it. They have some armor piercing damage. They are a decent frontline unit for the goblins. That's not saying a whole lot because goblins are pretty trash. I have a Night Goblin Shaman with the... Let's see what abilities I brought with him. I believe I brought Itchy Nuisance and Sneaky Stabbing. Yep, those are really the two important buff spells in the lore of the Little Wa. So those will be very nice to make my goblins a little bit better in melee. Have some Night Goblin Fanatic Archers. And then out on the flanks, lots of new units to check out over here. So first up, we have the Dorkit Squigs. These, I believe, only have a passive resistance to archer fire, so they're just basically a stat increase over the regular Night Goblin Squig Hoppers. War Squig Herd over there, they have armor piercing and bonus versus infantry, which is very useful against the dwarfs, as you can imagine. And then here we have the Warlord's Boys. These are Skarsnik's personal bodyguard, kind of, and they have a Sunder armor mechanic, which means when they run into melee for 10 seconds, they will reduce the opposing armor of a unit by minus 32. So that is pretty nice, and I believe the Warlord's Boys are also immune to psychology, so that's pretty nice. Looking at the other flank, or actually in the center of my army, we have Shelob, as I like to call her, the Arachnarok Queen. She can summon Spiderlings, which is very nice. You can block charges, prevent Slayers from getting in and amongst the Arachnarok Queen herself. You can do some nice little things when you summon those Spiderlings. Pretty useful ability. Just some regular goblins, 2 goblin big bosses, and of course we have to take a look at Skarsnik, the Warlord of the 8 Peaks, with his great Cave Squig Gobbler, and they are working in tandem together. This gives me hope for Krell and Kemmler at some point. Maybe one day Krell will be introduced. Where is Krell? Please see it. So we have Skarsnik here. He has a lot of unique abilities. Skarsnik's Prodder gives him a unique magic missile that also has a shrapnel effect. So once it hits an enemy, it'll blow up and hit multiple other units that are surrounding the unit you targeted. That's a pretty cool ability and pretty strong versus multiple combatants. You'll get maybe 7-8 kills against a decent infantry unit when you shoot this. So it can be, it's a kind of long cooldown, but it can definitely rack up damage over time. Certainly in a 40 unit cap battle like this one, can definitely do a lot of work for you. In the back, we have the Hammer of Gork, which has a really useful ability in an AoE called Blinded, which for 10 seconds will reduce enemy melee defense by 34 and melee attack by 36. That's really useful, and minus 40% accuracy. So in an AoE, that is a very powerful catapult unit, very useful. So moving on, we have more Arachnarok Spiders, and then over on this flank, we have more Squig Herd and we have Moon Howlers. Moon Howlers cause fear, so that's really the only difference in this between a regular Goblin Wolf Rider unit. They're a little bit more expensive, have better stats, and then we also have the 8 Peak Loonies, which use a Dwarf on a Chain, their Fanatic unit. Instead of a big ball and chain, they will literally take a Shaved Slayer and swing them around the battlefield. So I'll try to make sure I catch that when they release the Dwarf on a Chain. Those look really cool, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that one in action. Like I said, I have an all-Goblin army, so not going to be easy here against the Dwarfs. Night Goblin armies are not the most efficient kind of build you can bring in a multiplayer battle, but I also have a funds advantage. Oakley and I agreed to give the Dwarfs, I think, around 3,500 gold less than my Night Goblin army, so I have a bit of an advantage. You can see the balance bar is in my favor, but not by a lot, and the Dwarfs are, of course, going to be better than a Night Goblin army, but the change in funds is going to make it a little bit closer, I think. So we also have Norgrimling's Ironbreakers over on the other side. These are a increased unit size and HP pool Ironbreaker unit. Very cool color scheme, like that red, that crimson and the gold. Looks very good, but they have, I believe, 25 or 30 more dwarfs in a unit than a regular Ironbreaker, which gives them a lot more HP, and they also have Vanguard, which is not very useful when you're thinking about an Ironbreaker unit. They can't really flank well, they don't have a lot of mobility, so Vanguard deployment on a unit like this is kind of like an afterthought that's thrown in to give them a little bit more variation, but not very useful for the dwarves. Let's get another good look at Belegar Ironhammer. He has some pretty powerful melee capabilities and buffs. He also has the Mighty Oathstone, which gives him plus 36 melee defense and expert charge bonus. That is very useful for the dwarfs. In a huge AoE, you're getting that expert charge defense and deflecting the charge of enemy units. A lot of the dwarf warriors and lower tier units don't have that expert charge defense, so getting that from the Mighty Oathstone is very nice. A lot of powerful buffs from Belegar. We have Rangers on the flanks. Ulthar's Rangers right here. They are armor piercing, have Vanguard deployment, and are a fast unit. The Great Weapons units throw axes, and the regular Bugman's Rangers and just regular Rangers use Quarrelers, so they shoot crossbows. We have the Goblaba. This thing shoots tied up goblins. I'll try to catch that. That reduces morale quite a bit. Really powerful unit, and definitely going to be a nice little anchor for the dwarf artillery. In the back, we have the Peak Gate Guard. This is going to be one of the most powerful infantry units introduced in this DLC. They sunder armor, have magic attacks, so they will absolutely destroy Cairn Race and other units like that. Ethereal units are going to have no chance against the Peak Gate Guard. And then the sunder armor, minus 32. That is a lot. And of course, they have armor piercing as well. So this is going to be one of maybe the strongest dwarf infantry unit in the game right now. You'll probably see this a lot. It's very expensive, but it is definitely very powerful. He has Longbeards and with great weapons in the back, and then some Rangers and more dwarf warriors. Over on this side, let's see if he has anything else kind of unique. We just have regular Rangers with great weapons. They have the throwing axes, and then dwarf warriors with great weapons. So let's get into the replay and start showing off this battle. 16 minutes long. Not kidding you guys. The ending of this battle is absolutely insane. Stick around. So let's get into it. The Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are going to anchor the middle of this dwarf line. And up front, I'm going to have my Night Goblin Fanatics moving up to charge in. Got to keep my Goblin Shaman. Oh, we're going to see some Night Goblins go flying over. That looks so awesome. Got to make sure that my Night Goblin Shaman stays close by with these big blobs of Night Goblins I'm going to be sending into melee. They have super crappy morale, and of course they do have poison attacks, which gives them a little bit of a bonus in melee. Oh my god! Poor guy just got ripped in half. That was awesome. But I need the Night Goblin Shaman with the Itchy Nuisance and the other buffs, the Sneaky Stabbing, to make sure that they can actually stay in melee combat. I do have 3 Arachnarok Spiders, which will help out in melee combat a lot. You can see the miners with busting charges are releasing their explosive charges right now, doing a bunch of damage to the front line of the Night Goblin Fanatics. And we're going to watch the charge come in here. So the Arachnarok Spiders, old Shelob in the back, getting ready to go in. And I'm pounding the back lines of the dwarfs, these dwarf warriors, with some Doomdiver Fire and with the Hammer of Gort. Just trying to soften them up so that when the Arachnarok Spider charges in, I can do a lot of damage. This is my favorite map in the game now. It is a very interesting map. Got a lot of chance to Vanguard deploy and flank around these kind of pillars and obstructions in the middle of the map. There are 4 of them, and it's a very kind of symmetrical but asymmetrical at the same time kind of map. It's very nice. I really like this map. It's one of my favorite in the game so far. The Ragnarok Spider is going to charge in, start ripping through these Dwarf Warriors, and all 3 of my Spiders are going to get into melee. I'm going to pop Itchy Nuisance on these Dwarf Warriors and try to cut through them. There are also the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass back here. They have flaming attacks, and this is going to be one of the more cost-effective units for the Dwarfs. This is a very interesting unit. They have a bonus for infantry as well, so you'll probably see them a decent amount in multiplayer. The Ragnarok Spider going to work over here, and with the Itchy Nuisance subtracting the melee attack by 34 of all these Longbeards in an AoE, the Ragnarok Spider is going to do a lot of damage. Now we do have some bolt throwers in the back that Oakley is targeting on my Ragnarok Spider. You can see how much damage it's taken so far. These are very cheap. I think it's only like 550 gold to field the bolt throwers. They can do a ton of damage to large units. They don't actually have a bonus versus large, but the fact that they're so accurate means that you can rack up a lot of damage very quickly against high HP single entity units. Belegar Ironhammer has charged up the center and is going to start smacking around these Night Goblins with his Hammer of Angrund. He's just really powerful in melee, and you'll definitely see him do a lot of damage in this game. So over on this side, I have sent in my Squig Hoppers and my Squig Herd, and also the 8-peak loonies, and they're going to engage with these Dwarf Rangers from the front and the Dwarf Warriors, and I'll see if I can catch them released to Dwarfs on a Chain. It'll be pretty hard to catch because the Vortex will disappear very quickly. The Night Goblin Fanatic will actually just disappear after only a second or two, so it'll be kind of hard to catch the actual Slayer getting slung around, but I should do relatively well over on this side with my Cav coming in, charge from the rear, but the Warriors Dragonfire Pass are going to make that fight a little bit tougher than it normally would be. Gobla and Skarsnik are in the center, smacking people around with the Prodder, and he's going to do pretty decent in melee, but it is the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, a super tanky unit, one of the highest HP infantry units in the game, almost 10,000 HP. So cutting through them is going to be very difficult. I don't want to leave Skarsnik in here too long, or he could get beaten up. So I am going to pull him out. Didn't take too much damage here, but I will be trying to cast that Prodder pretty soon. In the back, I haven't done too much to shut him down, but over on this side, I have the Warlord's boys immune to psychology, stuck in melee with some Longbeards with great weapons, and they should do okay here. They aren't going to break anytime soon, but they're not going to win this combat either. So we'll see what kind of damage they can do with their poison attacks. In the center, I'm beginning to break a little bit. Of course, the morale for the Nazi Skulkers and some of these units are not doing very well. They are going to break, but they should keep cycling back into combat. The Arachnarok Queen is getting beaten up by the Peak Gate Guard. Very powerful hammer unit. And HP is going to get really low, and she's actually going to start running from the field. But she should come back. Over on the right flank, I've done pretty well. I've actually broken through and started to get into the back lines. Arachnarok Spider just causing tons of havoc against Bugman Rangers, eating some of them, ripping them in half, and chewing them and spitting them out. And then these Nazi Skulkers are going to get the sneaky stabbing buff and go looking for some Myers with blasting charges, or maybe silence that Goblaba, which got up to 140 kills. Did a ton of damage to my Goblins. And now Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are reforming and going to blast those blasting charges into the center of my formation. Skarsnik and Belegar are fighting 1v1 right here. Going for a very lore-friendly matchup, of course. Skarsnik is the warlord of the 8 Peaks, self-proclaimed. And, of course, Belegar Ironhammer believes that he is the true king of Karak 8 Peaks. So they have a very bitter rivalry, and we're going to be seeing them fight each other a lot in this battle in 1v1s. I'm shooting a lot of my poison arrows into the middle of my own goblins. Going to do some friendly fire, but I want to take down these Ironbreakers. They are the biggest threat on the field, except maybe the Peak Gate Guard. And in the back, Arachnarok Spider still stomping around, still doing a lot of damage. Goblin Big Boss is accompanying the Arachnarok Spider as well. You see him on the forest, or the Spider. He does poison attacks, and he has a lot of mobility. And I brought the Potion of Toughness with him, so that will keep him in combat for much longer and help him support the Arachnarok Spider as well. So just getting an overload or an overview of the battlefield. You see these 4 obstructions that I was talking about. They make for really interesting choke points and a lot of really interesting tactics you can employ on the battlefield. Night Goblin Shaman is still alive. I'm still pouring in fire to the Iron Breakers, and I'm stomping around. These units actually came all the way from this side and pushed over to Oakley's right flank. They're going to be stomping on the Longbeards with Great Weapons pretty soon. And now I'm going to start focusing fire with all of my artillery on these Iron Breakers with the Doom Divers and with the Hammer of Gork. And I'm going to charge in with my Arachnarok Spider as well and just try to smush them into little itty-bitty red paste. If I can take them off the field, I think I'll be in pretty good shape. And you can see, oh man, just utter devastation getting unleashed with 3 artillery pieces pouring in fire, doing a lot of damage. Even 10,000 HP is not enough to stay in combat too long when you're getting beaten up by an Arachnarok Spider and all that stuff. Over here, Belegar Ironhammer up to 111 kills, smacking around some Night Goblin fanatics. This is actually one of the Regiments of Renown Rusty Arrows. They have Sunder Armor as well and poison attacks, so they are a pretty powerful archer unit. I believe they're 600 gold, so a little bit expensive for a Night Goblin unit, but with Sunder Armor, definitely worth it if you're planning on bringing a Night Goblin build. Belegar smacking them around with the Hammer of Angrund. He's going to be racking up those kills. And you can see a lot of my Arachnarok Spiders are running from the field. Skarsnik down to 2200 HP. He's pretty low at this point, but the Dwarfs are beaten up as well. Kind of reforming at this point. Goblin Big Boss, very low, but the Forest Goblin, and the Spider rather, is going to do a bit of damage to the Iron Breakers and then break. I think he just shattered. So he's gone from the field, but I have another Big Boss in the back. Still with his Potion of Toughness, I believe. So killing these Rangers should not be too hard for him. And he's also silencing this Bolt Thrower as well, I believe. Actually, I think the artillery crew is still firing. That Arachnarok Spider is very low. That might be Shelob. Yeah, that's Shelob. She's going to shatter real soon. Only 600 HP left. Up to 95 kills. And that very cool yellow and black color scheme. But she is going to shatter, which sucks. That's going to be a shift in Oakley's favor for sure. You see the Goblin Big Boss and the Natchez Skulkers in melee combat with these Peak Gate Guard, the upgraded Hammers. And things are getting very tense at this point. But Belegar is still racking up the kills. His numbers are going to be inflated, of course, because he's fighting so many Goblins. But 150 kills is really impressive, even for a melee lord. Decapitating some with a hammer, that's impressive. Decapitating Goblins with a blunt instrument. But we're just kind of reforming at this point and trying to get everything back into combat. You can see neither of us has very much left. I am hoping these Arachnarok Spiders will rally, but both of them are around 1000 HP, so they don't have a lot of HP left. That was Skarsnik's Prodder right there. You see the acid on the ground. Should have caught that. But he's going to shoot in and do quite a bit of damage. He's up to 50 kills at this point. About 20 or so of those have come from his Prodder and then magic missiles. I believe I've gotten 2 or 3 of those off in this battle so far. Warriors of Dragonfire Pass making their last stand as the Moon Howlers charge in, causing fear. Actually going to cause those Longbeards with Great Weapons to back up. They probably will reform, and the Natchez Skulkers are also charging into melee, but I should win in combat over on this side in the shadow of those massive Dawi statues. And now Belegar is making his last stand, and things are looking very bad for him at this point. He's got a Goblin Big Boss, Skarsnik, Gobla, and the Night Goblin Shaman all smacking on him. And with 3 characters smacking on him with their melee attacks, with the Prodder, I should be able to at least cause him to run away from combat. Don't know if I'll be able to kill him at this point. Let's see, his HP is down to 2,000. I should definitely be able to win this fight. But he's going to be able to put out a lot of damage as well. The Arachnarok Spider is still stomping around. And now we have the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers. They're still alive. They've still got 1,000 HP left. And they've got, let's see how many men are left. 28 men left in the unit. 170 kills. This is going to be a nice charge from the Arachnarok Spider. See what kind of damage that can do. Oh, it's just so satisfying watching Arachnarok go to work. Oh, just crushing them into red paste. And now Belegar is running. He's not going to shatter yet. The balance bar definitely shifting in my favor at this point. But things are not even close to over. Look at this. 5 minutes left in the battle. Skarsnik and Gobla fighting to the death. Oh, Gobla's going to eat one of them. That was awesome. See his acid spewing out of his mouth. Stomach acid allowing them to kind of evaporate them once they swallow them. That was really cool, and the PK Guard are going to make their last stand here, up to 64 kills. Not super impressive, but they were fighting against Arachnarok spiders and that kind of thing, so not that surprising. Goblin is going to work right now. He's just going to town. I love that animation. That's so awesome. I'm so glad Squiggs got added. They're so much fun to watch. Now I think King Belegar is going to rally, and I'm going to pull out Skarsnik, and we are going to have a good old-fashioned duel. And things are about to shift back in his favor. Look at this. Oh, I shot another prodder there. Actually killed maybe 3 or 4 models from that shot. Skarsnik doing some work in melee combat. Up to 75 kills. But yeah, I am going to pull him out here. And we're going to get a really awesome 1v1 between the 2 lords of the Crooked Moon and Clan Angrund. Night Goblin Shaman casting Itchy Nuisance on all of these PK Guard. That will make them pretty much useless in melee. Same with the Longbeards. And that will allow my Goblin Big Boss to stay in melee for longer. Goblin again chomping on people. So where is Belegar? Belegar's right here. He's pulling out, getting ready for that epic 1v1 with Skarsnik. Goblin's still going to work. Let's get an overview of the battlefield really quick. We have Squig Herd chasing down some Longbeards with great weapons. Might be able to shatter them. We have my artillery crews, but I'm out of artillery at this point. And we have the remnants, just bolt throwers. Bolt thrower crews getting thrown in. We have Belegar. We still have a few of the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers with the Mighty O-Stone buff up on them as well. And here comes Skarsnik. This is where things get insane. Skarsnik and the Prada and Gobla are going to start 1v1ing Belegar Ironhammer. And let's look at their HP real quick. So we've got 631 HP on Skarsnik. On Belegar, we've got 171. So Belegar is going to need about 3 attacks to finish off Skarsnik. Skarsnik just needs 1, but he keeps missing. Keeps missing his attacks. And 300 HP. Oh, this is going to be so close. Another, oh my god. And Belegar is going to kill Skarsnik. And for a Night Goblin army, an entire Night Goblin army, that could cause some chain routing. You saw the Prodder get thrown up into the air and actually impale Gobla. That's another really cool animation, little effect that they added. Balance bar just shifted in Clan Angrund's favor. And Belegar won the 1v1. And here comes the Squig Herd. Let's see what they can do. He's got so few HP left. Less than 100, I think. 95 HP. And he's going to try to take on the Squig Herd by himself. Might be hard for them to finish him off. They're coming in to eat him. And they're going to eat Belegar Ironhammer. The Lord of Karak 8 Peaks is going to get eaten by a squig. What a terrible end for the Dwarf Lord. That was so amazing. When me and Oakley saw that live, we freaked out. That was absolutely insane. Belegar is going to get eaten by a squig. And that is going to even things out here. Balance bar literally 50-50 at this point. We each only have about 100 men left on the field. Have the Goblin Big Boss over here, buffing himself up on the spider. Should be able to get some good charges in. And now it's basically just artillery crews left, fighting it out, and just a tiny sliver of HP left on my Big Boss. PK Guard coming back into melee. They are going to rally. And the Squig Herd are also going to rally. Balance bar shifting a little bit more in my favor. But this could still go either way. Both of the Lords are completely dead at this point. Goblin Big Boss up to 85 kills. Artillery crews getting committed into melee. Here come the PK Guard. And here come the Squig Herd from the back. You can see them hopping in the background. About to get a rear charge off into these Longbeards and the Ironbreakers. And there's so many, there are decent melee troops on the field, but everything is so beaten up at this point. We had no idea how this one was going to end. Again, it shifted a little bit more in Oakley's favor because the Goblin Big Boss routed. And here come the Squig Herd. They have a bonus versus infantry and armor piercing. So if they charge in, they could do quite a bit of damage off the charge here into the back of the units who were not braced for them. And they're just going to start chomping on these Longbeards and Hammers and Ironbreakers. And will that be enough to shatter them? Here come just a few artillery crew charging in. And that's going to cause a mass rout. And the all-goblin army is going to take the field, but Skarsnik and Belegar are dead. At what cost for the Night Goblins? And at what cost for Clan Angrund? Just an absolutely insane enough to completely change the outlook of how that battle was going. With Belegar winning, when neither of us thought he was going to win because he had much less HP than Skarsnik did. But the fact that Belegar then got eaten by a squig herd. Just, oh, it was so cool. Just an amazing battle. Went back and forth for the entire time, just a pendulum swing back and forth. Absolutely insane. Looking at the kills, we had Skarsnik with 86, Belegar with 186. Dwarf Warriors did not do well at all. But the Miners with Blessing Charges did a decent amount, breaking up those first charges. The Dragonfire Pass Warriors, 128 kills. Dragonback Slayers, 231 kills. Didn't actually get to see them in action very much that battle. It's my fault. I apologize for that. But we got the Ironbreakers with 177. Peak Guard with 78. And my Hammer of Gork, 98 kills. 97 on the Ragnarok Queen. And Nasty Skulkers actually did pretty well. But it was a lot of kills on Rounding units and Dwarf Warriors. So that's not the most impressive amount of killing. Night Goblin Archers didn't actually do very well. With the focus fire I was doing, kind of expected them to do better. And the Squig Herd did okay, tying down some of the Rangers in the back lines. Now, again, remember that I did have a funds advantage in this one. We played this battle a couple of times, and the first time we had even funds, and it was an absolute massacre in the Dwarfs' favor, as you'd expect. I don't expect Night Goblin armies to be a common theme. They're not. This DLC is not going to make them super viable. It's a little bit more viable on lower funds, of course, just because you're then able to outnumber your opponent. But in this case, I had a 3,500 gold advantage, so I had enough to bring a Ragnarok Spider and 3 or 4 extra Goblin units to round out my army and allow me to do a bit of surrounding and stuff. If this was even funds, Oakley would have absolutely smashed me. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the ending to that insane replay. It was so much fun to cast, and that is the kind of replay that makes me love Total War. Just absolutely epic. Really enjoyed it. Hope you guys did as well. And I'll be bringing you a bunch of more content on the King and the Warlord DLC for Total War Warhammer. See you guys next time.